All right, podcast number 2 from Tom Torero, numero 2, being beamed at you from 2,000 miles east of Moscow. I'm in wild, woolly, wonderful Siberia. I am alive, if my mum's listening to this. And I guess you're listening on YouTube rather than iTunes, because I'm still waiting for those guys to confirm that this is a family-friendly, fun for all the kids podcast. It's not just pure filth. So once they've done that, it will be available to freely download from the iTunes store. Quick upsell before we kick off. And weirdly, this is related to the topic of the podcast anyway. I want to say that the September dates for the London boot camps are live on the website, tomtorero.com. Click below, where you'll see the dates for autumnal boot camps with Sam Django and Dave Digler, flying the flag on my behalf in London for only 450 quid for 16 hours of intensive street training. They're perhaps two of the best day game coaches and best day gamers on the planet. So you'd be mad not to do it. Get this skill sorted. More information, click below. They'll be assisted by Rami and by Jimmy, my two other coaches. All right, and the topic for today is related to that because it's based on a question that I keep getting via email. I keep getting when I meet guys at seminars, and I keep getting on the street when guys come up to me. And that is, how do you become a day game coach? Because obviously in the last year to 2 years, day game has exploded in popularity. It used to kind of be the little brother to night game, but now there's equal footing in terms of the market. So rather than boot camps just being held in clubs and bars, all around the world there's a lot of day game boot camps, a lot of day game coaches, there's a lot of day game websites, there's a lot of day game content on YouTube, and guys are interested in quitting their job that they currently have and making this their profession. What are the benefits? What are the dangers? How do you start YouTube? How do you start your brand? What are the risks involved? La-di-la, all these sub-questions. I'm going to answer them en masse in this podcast. Now, I hope this doesn't come across as blatant advertising for either my coaching or my boot camps. That's not what this is about. And I wanted to stress that, like I said last time, I'm not teaching boot camps at the moment. I've done it for 4 years. I'm taking time off. And if you want to do a boot camp with my guys in London, great. If you don't, and you just want to enjoy this content and you're thinking about becoming a coach yourself, then that's great. That's what this podcast is for guys that are doing day game and thinking of making it their job. So first of all, when guys say, how do you become a day game coach? What always pops into my mind is that I never set out to be a day game coach. This thing kind of found me. I didn't go looking for it. Because at the time, 2009, 2010, even into 2011 and 12, when I was getting going, I was a full-time primary school teacher in central London. I had more than a 9-to-5 job. Being a teacher of little kids is epic. It fills up your weekends as well. Day game was my passion. Back then, there was less than 5 guys in London doing it. There was less than a handful of videos on YouTube of what this new phenomenon actually was, proof that it existed. So people like myself and Rami and my friend Anthony, we felt alone on this planet in what we were doing. It was all by trial and error, figuring it out, making loads of mistakes, and then going home each evening after our sessions, after our regular jobs, and blogging about it, posting about it on forums in a very geeky way, breaking down everything. We were really, really interested in this new thing that we were doing. And we were posting field reports and then lay reports. And other guys were replying and asking to come and watch us do this, to verify what we were doing. Or guys would come up to me in Trafalgar Square, Piccadilly Circus, and just watch me, because it was very unusual to see this kind of game. So word quite quickly spread. You could say there was that lucky phenomenon of first to market, in that people like Rami and I were lucky in the sense that it was right place, right time, and that what we were doing was new in London. So people were coming up to me and asking to watch, asking what I was doing, asking how I was doing it. Guys were writing to me on the forum saying, could they have a session? And like I said, I had a full-time job, so I would go out usually in the evenings around 6 till 9 along South Bank or along Embankment, along the Strand, Piccadilly Circus, Trafalgar Square, Leicester Square, up to Regent Street and hang around with guys for free. So wing with them, do a little bit of approach coaching, which just means kicking somebody's ass. First it was indirect. I remember sitting on the benches in Leicester Square, and then it became direct with the front stop and then shops and all that. And only after 8 months of doing that, I started charging people, because demand was pretty good in my inbox. So I started charging £10 an hour. And I remember being terrified by actually taking guys' money, because it meant that I had to prove my worth. And my word had spread and guys trusted me because of my lay reports. But I felt from the beginning that it was right that I had to demo more, certainly in the beginning, to win guys' trust. So that's a key part of being a day game coach, demoing on demand. And certainly people like Dave and Sam and Rami and me and most day game coaches now, they demo on demand. So if a student says, do those 2 girls, or do the mother and the daughter, or do an instant date, or show me a sexual vibe, you've got to be able to do that. So get your day game skill down. Love day game. Get the word out about what you're doing. Win people's trust and peer trust by less talking and more action. And guys say, okay, well, what's the benchmark for being a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced day gamer? Most day game coaches concur on this, and most of my buddies who I wing with concur on this. Let's say you're sleeping with 1 new girl a month from day game, direct day game. Okay, not internet or Tinder, but direct day game. And that means that's 12 girls a year. Well, that's pretty good in any major city in the world. If you're sleeping with 12 new girls a year, that's good. Remember the rule. For game to apply, those girls have to be younger than you and hotter than you. Look at my podcast, or rather my talk with Krauser on SMV on this. Okay, so if a girl's SMV is higher than yours, she's younger and she's hotter, you've pulled it off. Well done, that's game. 12 girls a year, that's good. If you're doing 2 girls a month, sleeping with 2 new girls a month, that is above average. That is way above intermediate. That's 24 new girls a year. That's fantastic by anybody's standards. And I know some guys out there, and I went through a stage of doing this, where you sleep with 1 new girl a week. That's 52 girls a year if you kept that up. My maximum was 40 plus. I never reached 50 plus in a year, but I've known guys that have done that. And that means fantastic. You're top level and you have every right, and you should pass this knowledge on. So I'd say if you haven't, in a very crude way, nailed 12 girls yet from day game, then there's no way you should think about taking other people's money to do this, because they have to trust you, like I said, through peer review, word of mouth, but then also by putting your face online. And this is a big decision guys have to make, because remember, your mum's going to know, your family's going to know, your friends are going to know, and then girls are going to know, because you're going to be telling girls and people are going to know. And back in the day, it used to be enough just to show yourself running around collecting phone numbers. But now every man and his dog is doing that on YouTube. So that's why I put up proof of full lays, banging girls in toilets, taking girls home, clips of escalating, all that stuff, because guys need to know. Some guys would say, oh, it's for ego purposes. Well, yeah, perhaps all men are egotistical, but ultimately guys need to know. If they're paying you, they need to know that you close, that you're a closer, that you're not just an entertainer of girls. So if you slept with between 12 and 24 girls from day game in the last year or two, then you're on the right track to doing this for real. So just gather the evidence and put the evidence out there. Now, so half the fact of this is being a good day gamer, being reliable. The second half of this is being a good teacher, enjoying teaching, being empathic, someone who enjoys breaking stuff down, being someone who can keep it positive. So you're strict, but you're positive. Someone who enjoys this side of it. Because there's loads of great day gamers out there that I know who just simply aren't interested in teaching. They have no desire to become a coach because perhaps they don't even like other people. So that's a key thing to remember. Have you done any coaching before? Even if it's just teaching a buddy to skate, or doing some English language teaching, or some after school coaching with teenagers. Have you done anything? Have you passed something on? Perhaps that's been through a sport or your other hobbies. did you enjoy the teaching process? Because you're going to be teaching a massive range of guys, and you have to be very sensitive to their needs. Just like a good teacher, in teaching speak, we call this personalized learning, where you figure out individual learning styles and you cater to that. So some guys might like to talk and learn through the verbal stuff. Some guys, I'd say actually the majority of guys, just like to be shown. So once they see it before their eyes in a demo and they stand next to you when you demo, they believe it, hallelujah, and they can emulate it. Some guys are very visual and they like everything drawn down as mind maps. Some guys need more praise. Some guys need more demoing. Every guy is different, so it's very fluid. And you're going to be teaching guys, I've taught guys between the ages of 17, guys living with their mum, to one guy who was 67, this German dude. I've taught a whole range of people. It's no longer like this pick-up caricature of a guy in a flashing belt and a furry waistcoat. That kind of old school cheesy pickup is certainly dead in England and most of Europe. It might exist on the west coast of the US. I've taught eye surgeons, British Airways pilots, lots and lots of military guys, one priest actually recently from the Church of England, a celebrity chef, athletes, many students, wealthy bankers. So you have to cater to all these individuals. You have to know what you're doing as well. There has to be structure, just like Bruce Lee says, structure before freedom. So you need to know the technicalities of kicks and punches before you can flow and freestyle. So if you believe in natural game and being yourself, then really you shouldn't be a coach. Okay, you need to know stuff to the nth degree. You need to be able to micromanage as well as yourself being free-flowing. So you need to understand social dynamics. You need to understand little nuances of Daygame, from how do you deal with vibe, how do you deal with becoming sexual, how do you deal with phone numbers, dating advice, escalation advice, different scenarios, all types of scenarios that you should have experienced already. Groups of girls, seated girls, girls that are married, girls with their mum. If a girl says she has to go, if a girl's giving you nothing, if a girl doesn't speak English. Every scenario in the book you have to have experienced yourself before you have the right really to charge people to pass this stuff on. So like I said, get the skill set down and then start teaching people for free. So start as an approach coach, which just means that for free you go out and you push people physically into interactions, you keep their spirits up, just kick them up the ass. And yeah, your mum could be your approach coach, but it's a useful thing to have. So start winging with people that are not as good as you. See if you enjoy the process. Then teach somebody who you see regularly. So teach a friend and start to spot their progression. And then perhaps teach a group of guys. So you start to see commonalities, common sticking points. Because the good thing about a Daygame coach is that after a year or two, you spot certain patterns, the same things, the same sticking points come up again and again. And you modify your explanations. Certainly a pattern for coaches is that when you start, you want to tell students everything. So you're pointing out everything, all the micromanaged little flaws. And what that does is scare the student, gets them totally into their head, ruins the moment, and actually lessens their results. So then you discover that it's important to just figure out the one thing in that moment that the student needs to hear, wrapping it in positivity, keeping the spirits up. And then perhaps at the end of the session, giving detailed micromanaged feedback. So there's that as well. And then build your personal brand, get your videos out there, get your audio out there, get the word of mouth, get other peer review sessions going. And then you have a right to charge money, get some feedback from that coaching, get some testimonials, and you're away. And then it's all about you finding your niche, building your personal brand, doing it through content, giving away lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of free content until people trust you, until people know who you are. And then you can branch, like I have, into things like books and filming and focusing on other projects entirely where guys still trust what you're doing because they know who you are. And as a coach, remember, you're not just going to be teaching Daygame. a dating coach is a psychologist. A dating coach is a social worker. 2 or 3 times I've had to refer people to their local doctor, their GP. So it's a serious thing where guys open up. They're very vulnerable, and it's a position of responsibility. A bit like teaching children. You have to understand that you're not there as the drill sergeant. What's that common saying in education? Education is not the filling of buckets, but it's the lighting of fires. Yep, it's cheesy. It's Tony Robbins again, but it's true that you're not there to just beat them with a stick and make them feel worse about themselves. You're lighting the fire that's already there. You're stripping away the layers of bullshit and finding that masculine man in all of us that's already there. It takes a while to find that balance of being strict and being their friend, because you don't want to be overly friendly and overly nice, just like a good classroom teacher or a good parent. That doesn't work either. So there's this middle ground that you have to find, okay? So baby steps. I'm not suggesting that you quit your job tomorrow and you start teaching Daygame right away. Like I said, do things in tandem. So you've still got your regular job, you've got your guaranteed income, but you're doing some approach coaching and then charging a little amount here and there until you feel that you've got the revenue stream to be able to walk into your office and hand in your resignation. I remember that moment, walking into my head teacher's office and handing in my notice. It's a very scary feeling. It was like stepping off a cliff, because I wasn't sure that there was going to be enough demand in London and Europe and around the world for me to coach. But looking back, it was the right decision, because I'm able to travel, I'm able to do what I want, I'm able to have more free time than obviously when I was a school teacher, and I still love the Daygame. A big point to remember is that when you make a passion a job, it can very easily alter your perception of that passion. And what happened to me when I was in the first 1 to 2 years of coaching, I started to not feel the flow. I started to dislike daygaming privately myself. I've had many times daygame revulsion, which is very normal in any kind of skill set that you're trying to master, where you just go through periods of getting up and thinking, God, I hate it now. The magic goes, but it comes back. And doing intensive training every day in your city, and remember using your weekends up to teach, that can cause you to lose that magical spark that you had in the beginning with Daygame. So that's something to watch out for. Like I said, putting yourself on YouTube, putting yourself out there, that's another thing to watch out for, because there's no going back. The internet doesn't have a delete function, really. It's there. People know who you are. You'll be recognized more and more. It's something that you have to talk to your family about. It's something I now talk to girls about. Certainly if I'm entering into any kind of relationship longer than just one night with them, I let them know what I do. Lots of guys ask me this, actually, and I've talked about it in my books. It's counterintuitive, the answer, because when you tell girls, yep, there's a 10-minute period where they freak out a little bit, they're pissed off, they might even leave the house. But as Mystery said, you're a leader of men and you're socially proven. You've got other girls who are attracted to you, which, surprise, surprise, makes that girl who you just told more attracted to you. So it's one of those counterintuitive things about game, that by being the gangster pimp, what's that saying? You can't be half a gangster. Yeah, you've got to be it. You've got to live it. And girls might, quote unquote, hate you for it consciously, but they love you. There's many girls that have read my first book. There's girls that are in the book that have copies of that book. I remember one girl in particular who found out what I did, and I hadn't even slept with her, and she went mad and she went away for a few weeks. But then she came over with a copy of the book, the first book, Daygame, that she had bought and read with highlighted passages. She sat there and she lectured me on how bad it was. And then 10 minutes later, we were upstairs. So, yeah, it's a weird one. It works a bit like Fame, pre-selection and that whole entourage effect. So it's cool, but it's a big thing in your life to say that you do this publicly. It's a decision you have to make, and consider your long-term career. And then consider how long you're going to do it for, and what other passive income streams you might want to set up, what other income streams you might want to set up in tandem. Do you just want to do it in your city? Do you want to travel as well? So considering your lifestyle, I've spoken about this in my videos of unplugging from the matrix and minimizing your life. Is that something you want to do? Or do you have ties? Do you have debts to pay off? All these are serious concerns. So the disclaimer of this podcast is I'm not encouraging anybody to just jump off and go into this. You've really got to take your time with baby steps. There you go. I'm going to leave it there for today. But it did kind of feel a bit like I was advertising myself as a coach. So once again, I want to say I'm not coaching right now, apart from Skype, but I'm not doing any live coaching right now. And to really prove the point that this is not some marketing gimmick, I'll say check out some completely non-related companies to me, like Krauser, if you can get hold of him, a fantastic day gamer and a fantastic analyst. Steve Jabber, if you can get hold of him. He rarely coaches now, but if you can get coaching from the man himself, he's awesome. James Marshall, I know, who's in Australia and in Central Europe. He's very, very good, both at coaching and at day game. And of course, my old mate John Matrix, he's still coaching in London. He's not part of the company, but like I've said many times, a top world seducer and a coach who's done thousands and thousands of sessions. There you go. Any questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you. And any things you'd like me to cover in the forthcoming podcasts, leave them below and I'll take them on board. But for now, keep well, keep happy, keep day gaming, keep flowing. Speak to you soon. Ta-da.
Please hang up and try again.